The Dental Download podcast is your source for insight from conversations with fellow dentists, specialists, and leaders in the industry. With new episodes every Monday morning, I'm your host, Dr. Haley. Let's get into this week's episode. Alrighty, hello everyone. We are here with another guest today. I have Dr. Will, a fellow dentist I connected with through TikTok, so make sure you check out his page. But will you introduce yourself for us? Tell us who you are, where you're practicing, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. My name is Dr. Will, or really Will Dadouris. I am a second year private practicing dentist. I live in Jersey City in New Jersey, but I work out in West Jersey in a small town called Clinton. I went to Rutgers Dental School for school, and then before that, I did an accelerated dental program at Moravian University. So a very small school, but I was able to go, from high school to 3 years of college right into dental school. So it's been nice being a little bit younger, starting the field. I really did not want to graduate at 40, but I had people in my class that did it. So listen, if you want to do a career change, but the thought of going back to school right now seems like a nightmare.
So did that small college have affiliation with Rutgers Dental School?
It was a Temple. So they had an accelerated program with Temple. And about halfway through my first year of college, they cut the program at Temple. And they were like, hey, we have like enough people that have graduated and have master's degrees. Like, we don't need people that haven't even graduated. And I'm like, that's a really good point. What do I do?
Mm-hmm.
But being from New Jersey, wanting to work in New Jersey, it was actually kind of a blessing. I had no idea that this was going to be great. And the school that I went to was like, you wanted to get out of here in 3 years, we'll get you out. So that was really good. And, so I am grateful that they had that program. But I know Rutgers does have some programs with, other schools in New Jersey.
Gotcha. So you weren't guaranteed an acceptance to dental school. You just got through undergrad quickly and you applied like everyone else.
Yep, exactly. And I had to apply to a lot of schools because I was really worried that I had 2.5 or really only 2 years worth of grades on my transcript. So me applying, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to take genetics. Like, I think I'll do well. I hope I'll do well. So it was a little interesting, and I did fine on my DAT. Like, I wouldn't say that I got something at the time. I think the scale changed, but like, I know I needed a 20 or above. And the moment that score had a 2 in it, I was like, good. I got a 20. That's all I needed. Like, I didn't need a 26 or anything like that. But yeah, there was no guarantee, unfortunately.
Hey, but it worked out, and here you are. You lived to tell the
Exactly.
tale. So tell me a little bit about your first couple years of practice. Did you have to do residency to practice in New Jersey? Because I know New York you need one. So what did you decide from dental school into practice? You're in private practice. Tell me a little bit about that kind of end of dental school into working.
Yeah, so New Jersey doesn't require any residency. So you can go right from dental school right into working. So I actually joined an office. My dad is a dentist and my uncle, so his brother, is also a dentist. So I joined the two of them and I graduated on a Monday. And by that Thursday, I was working. The license process was the most efficient state-run program I have ever seen in my entire life. It was really unbelievable how they could be that efficient with anything. So it was great. And I started right away. My last couple months of dental school were really chill. I didn't really do a whole lot. So I was like, I don't need another summer after taking 3 months of doing a whole lot of nothing. But it was a transition for sure. You're used to seeing 2 patients a day. And you're like, okay, I'm seeing 2 patients. You're like, okay, how quickly am I supposed to do this? And they're like, oh, an hour. And you're like, okay, gonna need a little more time than that. But then, you start dropping it down. You're like, I really don't need 3 hours for a filling.
Definitely. And did you find that you kind of had a different outlook of dental school with having those close family members that are practicing dentists telling you and growing up around dentistry, probably like what the real world of dentistry is like? Because I feel like some of us don't learn that till we're in it, but you kind of knew that from the get-go. So it probably gave you a different perspective with the school.
And it's also hard because the things that everyone thinks are stupid in dental school, when you can ask someone, hey, do I need a surveyor? And they're like, what? Like, I think we have 2 of those sitting in the basement. And sure enough, the same surveyors we used in dental school were the ones that my dad and uncle had in dental school in the 70s that you never used since the 70s. And so you kind of are like, I'm never going to need to do this. And you're like, okay, I just got to get through it. And I don't know if that makes it better or worse, but you're like, this is a struggle. And especially like you're doing dentures and it's a 10-step process to do full over full. And now you come to the real world and you're like, this is a 3 appointment thing. Like this life is so much better. But you're like, I need to ask someone, like, am I going crazy here, or is that kind of the normal? There we go.
Yeah, I feel like it definitely makes you take the long way with things. I'm sure it did teach us a lot of foundational principles, like understanding deeply how things work. But yeah, especially with modern technology and other materials out there, there's so much more efficient ways to do things in the real world. That's one of the big reasons I agree that life after dental school is so much better because you can pick your own workflow, pick your own materials, pick your own systems, and do what works well in your hands and what's usually better for the patients too, like less appointments, getting their results faster. It's a win win. So I totally agree with you there.
Yeah, I actually taught the lecture of amalgam to the first year dental students this past spring. And I had to start the lecture by basically saying, like, I have done one of these fillings on a real patient, and that was in dental school. You will never do these ever. And you're like, why am I spending 2 hours teaching these kids how to do this? Why are you going to go to preclinic and learn this? Like, you could spend your time doing literally anything else. And I'm like, why not this be a great opportunity to do 2 hours of practice management? But, listen, I don't make the curriculum, but that is true. You get to choose the materials you like. You get to ideally work at an office where you get to choose the instruments that you like as well. And I think that's something, for us, we provide our hygienists with all the tools they really need and they want. The better they do, the better the cleaning's going to be and the happier patients are. So it's like, oh, you want a cordless polisher. Okay, cool. No big deal. Like, that's not $100,000 thing. It's not like we're asking for new CBCTs every week. But, it's so true. And that's what makes it fun. You're like, oh, the school only uses this system. Okay, guess that's what I'm using for the next 3 years.
Yeah, I think it's cool to be in an environment, as you mentioned, that keyword, an office that lets you do those things of trying different things, figuring out what you like, maybe using things that are different slash better than what you had access to in dental school. But I feel like some people don't ever go beyond what they were taught in dental school because they're afraid to, or maybe they don't have the support in an environment. And that can lead to some people being in situations that they're not happy with. And there can be lots of different reasons that people hate their jobs out of dental school. And we were kind of talking about this before we started recording that in general, there's a lot of negative discourse online about how much dentistry stinks and how it's not worth it and how it's so miserable and all these different things. I know you teased a little bit about your situation that you're in a practice with family, which is probably much more supportive than some other people get the opportunity to do. But I mean, for your own situation, still, you were still a new face in the practice. You were still someone new for people to get to know. You were still a young dentist. That's another barrier some people feel like they have to work through. But what advice would you have for someone that in a situation that they don't like as one of their first jobs?
Leave. There are so many dental jobs. There really are. Dentists are always looking for associates. And I'll tell you the easy numbers why. You're going to work. Every dollar you make, the owner's going to make 66, 67% of every dollar you make. So they are looking for associates all the time. In my office, no, not right now, but I'll tell you the amount of associate jobs that are out there are there. And if you don't like a place, I get it. You want to be loyal to the office. You've built those relationships with your patients, and that's very valuable. But if you hate your job, leave. I don't know why, if people are in corporate America, they leave, and then dentists are like, oh no, I have to stay. You don't have to stay at all. And especially now with you're not allowed to have like restrictive covenants or any of those things that locked you in being like, well, I live in New York. I can't practice within a mile of this office. It's like, you can practice in the same building now. So that's really my biggest thing. And some of my friends, they've left and they're significantly happier. And I'm like, yeah, because again, I am not going to be the perfect dentist for every patient. People are not going to agree with me and the way I think and the way I do things. People are not going to agree with working with them too. You can't work in every office. And I can totally go to an office in North Carolina and be miserable. Or I can go to one down the street and be like, I love this. This is so much fun. And so I think that's the biggest thing is like you have to be willing to leave and understand that there are a million offices that are going to be looking to hire you. And it might also be a chain. I am not the biggest hater of DSOs. I think there is a place for them. And I think it's also a great opportunity for a young grad dentist to really learn in a private office setting that's not, the patient relationships are not there as much. There's a lot more turnover in a DSO, which is great because your name's not on the door. You can learn. It's a high volume office. You can learn so much, but yeah, get out of there. Leave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like I see people saying like they can't find a job, they can't find a job in really saturated cities. But then I quickly Google it and I'm like, oh, there's all these job postings. I
Yes.
think it's They're in something they don't like and they don't want to switch to something else unless it's like seems like the best thing ever versus just another thing, because you might like that a little bit better and you can keep dabbling till you find something that you can make into the right fit too.
My one friend described it as, the devil you know versus the devil you don't. My one friend is like, I don't like my boss. He's kind of a jerk, but I get to do this, this, and this. And like, he hates half of his job and loves the other half. And he's like, well, I could hate both halves of my new job. I doubt I'm going to love everything. I mean, even in my office, I didn't love everything when I started. I made a ton of changes. So that was kind of another thing where it's like, try to also go to an office where you have the ability to make changes that the owner is going to want to entertain.
Mm-hmm. And what's it like working with family that are dentists? You mentioned it a little bit, but there's a lot of people in dentistry that have parents that are dentists that they might end up working with. So what advice would you have about that dynamic?
Very fortunate that both of them, my dad and my uncle, both of them were very accepting of change and accepting of the way dentistry is now and the way that people find dentists now. So start with the dental part. The biggest thing is we were traditional impressions. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I hate traditional impressions. And there was a company that allowed you to get a scanner for free as long as you use that scanner to do your lab work. You couldn't use that scanner to then send to another lab. And I was like, all right, so what's the catch? Well, you just have to meet a certain minimum. And I looked at our monthly bill and I'm like, we hit that minimum every month. They're like, cool, when do you want to sign up? And it was hard because I'm like, I have to teach these two guys that have been practicing dentistry longer than I've been alive new tricks. Like they'd never held a scanner before. My uncle doesn't even really use a cell phone. And now he's using a $40,000 scanner. And that was a lot. And you have to, one, be patient on both ends. They have to be patient with me wanting to make all these crazy changes. And I have to be patient with them of, hey, I'm stuck. How do I do this? Okay. Make sure you do this. Dandy has full support, right? You could just ask them, but no, it's fine. I'm here. I'll just take care of it. And so that was, the big thing of like, they have to be willing to make a change because dentistry has changed a lot. The other thing was we were not online. I mean, not like I'm saying we weren't on TikTok. That was a new thing just for fun for me. But like we had no Google business profile. We had no website. We were nowhere. We were just word of mouth, and their growth trajectory, they didn't care about. They weren't selling the office. Everyone was already graduated school. The house was paid off. The office was paid for. Like, what's the difference between 15 patients a day or 50? Doesn't really make a difference. So it was, making these changes. But when the scanner worked out, that worked out so well. They kind of were just like, I don't really care what you do. Just do your thing. So that was nice that I got a lot of autonomy to just kind of run loose with everything.
Are they like blown away about how much growth you've probably had since all the stuff you've brought in?
Yeah, I'm really fortunate we've been able to grow a lot. So we were averaging around 80 or so new patients, 80 to 90 new patients a year around like 2023, 2024. We had like 150. Last year we had 320. This year we're on track for around 500.
That's awesome.
So they're like, oh, okay. So we went from like 80 to we've already seen 250 this year. And they're like, yeah, all right, cool. I don't really care what you're doing. But it's nice, like our marketing spends zero. So they can't really argue with that when they're like, oh, we're not like we're spending, $10,000 a month to get these new patients. We're spending zero.
And what have you been doing then? Just Google optimization? What are the things you've been adding to get those new patients?
Been like a multi-factorial approach. So we've done a website, a Google business profile, and then we used AI to optimize both of them. You don't need to pay for a marketing company to do this. ChatGPT is free, or realistically just use Claude and just say, hey, here's what I'm trying to do. Optimize these pages. And it just does it. Like I got a quote right when I graduated. It was like $6,000 to build a website. And I'm like, I don't know anything about websites. I know that's a lot of money. I don't have any of it. So I'm going to figure this out. And it's not like I'm some tech genius. I fully am a dentist, but you just use AI. And then so the online presence, that was the big thing. From there, I joined a networking group. It's called BNI. They have them all across the country. And it's great. You're in this small business networking group of other locally owned small businesses. And so they can give you ideas. And one of the guys goes, oh, yo, bro, I was at Jimmy John's. And the guy was like, if you leave a review, we'll give you a free bag of chips. And he's like, so I left a review right there. And I'm like, oh, well, we need Google reviews. I'll give people a free whitening kit. It's like $5. They'll love it. I'll love it. So it was joining BNI. We implemented a referral program. So if you come to our office, you come in as a new patient, you bring in your significant other, you get a free ultrasonic Sonicare. We give people actual Sonicares, and people are like, oh, these are like really good toothbrushes. I'm like, I know. But one, it makes our life easier for the cleaning. Two, our patients feel valued. And three, I'd rather give you a $35 toothbrush than spend $35 on Google ads or Facebook ads because it directly benefits you. It doesn't benefit Meta or Google.
Yeah.
And kind of combining all of those together just made people go, oh. And then just telling people, hey, I'd love if you could invite your friends or your family. Any referral really helps us grow as a small office.
That's awesome. So what's the trajectory with your business then? Are you hoping you'll be taking over at some point? How's that going to work?
I signed a scheduled buyout. So every year I pay my dad and my uncle a certain amount, and then I get more and more equity in the office. So kind of the way it works, and it worked since the day one, is when it was my dad and uncle, my dad would make 50%, my uncle would make 50% of total collections. Whether my dad saw them, the hygienist saw them, my uncle saw them, didn't matter, 50-50. And then when I joined, it was then divided up between us. So that's why now when people ask, what do I do normally on a given week? I would say 80% of my week is composed of cleanings. And I am doing new patient cleanings. I'm doing existing patient cleanings. I'm doing child prophies. And it's nice because I can act as a referral. So you came in, you've been a patient of my dad for 8 years. Lower right tooth needs a filling. Hey, listen, you need a filling on the lower right. Get you booked with my dad. Take about an hour. They're like, great. So by me being full of cleanings, I'm able to kind of refer those over to book my dad and my uncle's schedule out while the hygienist is booked out for the full day as well. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting. No one's like, oh my God, I got to do 10 cleanings today. But the way it works is it doesn't make a difference if I'm doing the cleaning, a hygienist is doing the cleaning, or we hire another hygienist. As long as our chairs are full, that's all that I'm really focused on.
And I'd imagine too, you're building that trust with the patient base and they're getting to know you. You're with them for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour. And so it's a chance for them to get comfortable with you. And down the road, they'll be like, yeah, Dr. Will can do it. I know him. And I'm sure that's part of the
Exactly.
strategy too.
And some of these patients have been coming to this office for 30 years. And I look at it and I'm like, whoa, like you've been here a long time. And people build those relationships with the two doctors in charge. And then it's not going to just automatically, because I'm the son, that you're going to go, oh, I trust everything to you. You have to build that relationship and get familiar. And people are still like, I don't think we met before. And I'm like, I have fully been here 2 years. But it's nice, you want people to feel comfortable. And I think this is really the easiest way for us to make people feel comfortable. And it's kind of a slow process. Cleanings are really low stakes.
Yeah. And the other, 20, 30% of your day, are you doing treatments that you have planned from new patients then and you're doing them yourself?
Yeah. Or it's a patient that I've seen for a cleaning like 2 or 3 times. And I'm like, cool, we need a crown. But it's nice because I can refer them over and it's like I'm booked out for months on end now because I'm doing a lot of cleanings. They book out. And so sometimes it's like, hey, you can do it with me. I think I have a cancellation. It could be in 2 weeks from now, or my dad's free tomorrow. They're like, oh, let's go with your dad. I'm like, what do I care? At the end of the day, we're all very similar. People see me and they see my dad and they're like, you guys are definitely related. And they see my uncle like, y'all are definitely related. So it's not like it's this crazy shift between providers at the office, which is good.
Yeah, I think one of the things that surprised me the most starting my associateship was how quickly patients were on my schedule and how little pushback there was, which I'm so grateful for. Like existing patients, the practice has been there since the 80s. People who have been there forever were comfortable just to see this new dentist and they didn't think anything of it because of how well the team and whatever doctor had planned the treatment, or maybe it was me and they got to meet me during the exam, but just spoke highly of me as a new associate that they had no gripe about trusting someone new that quickly. And that was a huge shock to me when I started a couple of years ago. I mean, and even still now, there's a handful of people that say, I just prefer Dr. X, but most people are happy to see someone as long as the hygienist is like, you're going to love them. They're great. That's like a transfer of trust. So I was really grateful for that. And I would say people in offices as associates, really make sure your team loves you and trusts you because that's how they're going to speak highly of you. I give people the advice to take photos of their work, take post-op x-rays so that you can show your team like, I know what I'm doing. I do a good job. So they're more likely to speak highly of you and you can get more operative work on your schedule too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm someone that talks a lot about your team is the most important part of the office. So I usually think of the practice owner as kind of like the head coach. So no head coach is getting the MVP of any sport. And it's true because you just orchestrate everything in the background. But the most important people in my office are up front, hands down. Because if they can't fill a schedule, they can't answer calls, they say the wrong thing to a patient looking for a new office, No one's going to come in. And then who's the first person they meet most of the time? The hygienist. So then they are the second most important people, because by the time you show up for your hygiene check, they've already had 45 minutes with other people in your office. If you've pissed them off, there's no coming back. You can't save that appointment in the last 15 minutes. It's all done. And so the team has to be your biggest supporter, because otherwise you will just crumble and fall.
And how was that with you starting from, they probably, some of the team knew you from growing up and then coming in like, I'm finally the dentist. What was that transition like?
I shadowed at the office throughout college and dental school. They knew who I was. They knew me. And that was really important. And then they kind of, asked me questions. Will, what do you think of the nano whatever toothpaste? I'm like, nano hydroxyapatite. It's this and this. Like, you kind of know what you're talking about. Like, yes, I definitely do. And that was the thing, working with them, and you just have to gain their trust. I was really fortunate that our one hygienist needed a crown, and I did the crown, and I was like, I want to do this. I did the crown, drop in. She's like, this is the best fitting crown I have ever had. And I'm like, well, I can't really take much credit. We did switch labs for a reason. And then it was great because of two reasons. Of one, she's like, definitely has my trust. And two, now she can talk about our dandy crowns with all of our patients. She's like, I have one. It's the greatest thing I've ever gotten. I'm getting 2 more over here. I can't wait. And I'm like, yeah. And that's the good thing when you can do something like that. And listen, I hope none of your hygienists or any of your assistants need anything. But if you do, it's a great opportunity for you to be like, I'll clear my schedule for this afternoon. Like, let's get it done now. Do a good job and people are going to trust you.
Definitely. What would you say has been some other kind of learning curves from when you first started working to now? What have been some of the things you focused on?
Okay. Dentistry is the easiest part of your day, hands down. As a practice owner, it's all the other things that are just chaos in your life. It's like issues with insurance, issues with the front, issues with scheduling. You got to pay taxes. That was crazy. That was really not fun. It's all of those other things. And it was nice that I had the ability to kind of transition into them and go, okay, I'm going to start helping with the ordering. And you go from helping with the ordering to now I'm doing the ordering. And you go from, okay, we're doing payroll. I'm still not doing payroll. I'm like, I really can't comprehend how they do that system. And I'm like, I'll get there one day. But that's kind of the thing of like, focus on one thing you want to get good at first. And realistically, it should be the dentistry. That's why people are going to you. That's what's keeping the lights on is your dentistry. And then worry about all the other stuff in phases. I wasn't doing the things that I was doing now 2 years ago, right when I graduated. You got to start slowly transitioning into those other things. And it's really important to try to find an office that has an owner that's willing to teach you these things. I just spoke about this last week of how I think the dental field is really toxic. And it's not always deliberate. It's you have someone that's an associate, they felt like they're being undervalued, they hate the place, they go and they say, I'm going to leave this office, I'm going to start my own. And they build that office, they build it up, they hire an associate, and they never really learn those things, so they can't teach the associate, how to do these things. And the associate does the same thing, and it's kind of this cycle. And the other thing that I see is that dentists think everyone else is a competition. I can help you build your practice to be the best one in the entire state, and it will take 0 patients away from my office. There are so many dentists that are willing to just sit down for a conversation, learn from them. And you're like, it's not a competition. You just need to find someone that's willing to teach you, because otherwise they're like, oh, well, why am I going to teach you? You're just going to open an office down the street and be my competition. It's like, or they could move their office 45 minutes away because they don't feel like living in this small town, and they're not going to be competing at all.
Yeah, it's that abundance versus scarcity mindset. I think a lot of dentists deal with the scarcity mindset that keeps them really stuck in bad situations and not growing because they're scared to push themselves, and just consistent negativity. It gets you if you get stuck in that cycle, for sure.
I know. And it's hard because you kind of then have to reset, and you're like, why am I doing this? Like, why did I go into the field? Did I go into this field just to make a lot of money? No, I spent 4 years at hell. I could have done 4 years at a hedge fund and made 10 times what I'm making as a dentist. It's like, no, you came in this to connect with people, build those relationships with people, and help people. And then the money follows, because the more you connect with people, the more they help you grow. And the more you grow, the more patients you see and the more work you get. But people come to my office and they've seen the work that I've done in aesthetics. And I'm never the first person to go, you would look wonderful with 12 veneers across the front. I'm like, no, what do you need? What are you looking for? You have a beautiful smile. I don't know, they're a little crooked. You want to do aligners? We'll submit a pre-D for you. See, maybe it's even covered by insurance. And it's just setting that mindset of being like, we're doing this for people. That's what makes it rewarding. We get paid to play arts and crafts. And then we get to see our work any given day.
Yeah. I know it's a very cool thing. And unfortunately, I think a lot of the stress for people comes from how expensive dental school is. And they're dealing with, like you mentioned, taxes. They're like, oh, I'm finally making a lot of money. There goes half of it. And now I paid half of that towards my loans, but I didn't make any dent in the principal. And it's just like, okay, how long is my life going to be like this? But I feel like you can find mentors and friends in the dental community that are 5, 10, 15 years out of school who tell you like, hey, it does get better. And eventually you're going to get there. You just have to keep being smart about the financial decisions.
Yeah. And I mean, for the financial decisions, I have several things of advice I will tell anyone. So, one, the best dental school is the cheapest dental school. Period. The end. There's no arguing. You will never convince me that a more expensive dental school is better. No one cares where you go to school at all. They're like, do you have a degree? Yeah, it's hanging on the wall. Cool, done. End the conversation. And for me, I went to a state school. Like Rutgers is only dental school. It was nice because people are like, oh, I went to Rutgers too. Let me hear all about it. I don't have a lot of people that went to Harvard in my office. And frankly, if I went to Harvard, I don't think anyone would care at all. That's one. Two, know what you're good at and what you're not good at. I'm not a tax guy. I'm not a financial planner. I have a tax guy. And I have a financial planner. It is worth their weight in gold because they're looking at things like, I sold all my stuff from dental school. And they're like, oh, well, you sold it at a loss. You don't have to pay again income on that. And I was like, had no idea. That makes a lot of sense. Like, duh, I bought it for a lot more than I sold it for, but I'll take that money back. And you have the financial planner being like, hey, what are we thinking? When are we looking to get married? When are we looking to buy a home? Like, they're the ones that are helping you through this. And yes, you can use AI for it, but find a person. Be willing to be like, I'm not the best at everything. Same reason why I don't do root canals. I'm like, I'm not the best at these things. I hated it. I was bad at it and I hated it. I send everyone to get to the specialist. And people don't judge me for being like, I think you're in better hands. They're like, great, thank you. They trust you more when you're willing to say, I don't know. Now, as far as, the financial thing of dental, yeah, dental school it's getting out of hand very quickly. And the cost of opening a new office on your own is also getting out of hand very quickly. I don't know how many more generations of future dentists will be private practice owners versus owners of a franchise or a DSO. Mm-hmm. It's hard, when you're looking at it and it was like, oh, how much were the chairs? And like chairs were like $5,000. And now I'm looking at chairs of the same, specs and everything being $90,000. And you're like, wait, what? And they're like, oh, well, no, that's if you get everything. We can get it down to like 40,000. You're like, oh, okay, that's just 8x what they paid. And you hear these things, you're like, all right, then I got to buy composite and burrs and drills and every instrument. You're like, it gets out of hand. And it kind of is a little overwhelming for a lot of people to think of, having $250,000 to $500,000 in debt and taking out another $1 million to open an office. Mm-hmm. But it can be done. The endodontist I shadowed was $2 million in debt when I first met him. I'm not worried about him going homeless. Dentists default on their loans lower than any other specialty, like any other job. So banks are willing to give you tons of money because they're like, we know you're going to pay us back. Not really worried about you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We were just talking about this at work today too, that, our office included, but if you look back from like 2005 at our fees, yeah, we've raised them, but very small increments. And same thing, people talk about that with insurance too. They're barely raising fees, barely raising people's annual amounts and everything. And my owner doctor was like, yeah, a can of Coke used to be 50 cents. Now it's $3. If we raised our crown fees that same amount, they'd be like 5 or 6 grand a crown. And that's what you're getting with the markups of, like you said, the equipment that you're buying, some of the materials. So that's what's really, I feel like, crushing dentists and small businesses is that everything else costs more to exist and you're paying your team more, which they're worth their weight in gold, like we said, but it's expensive. So it's challenging for businesses to thrive in that environment. That's one reason, like our office, we are out of network, and a lot of offices around my area are, and it helps a little because you can set your own fees, but you still need to be fair within what other offices are charging. But you can also work, the top line is not really able to exponentially increase. You can't go, all right, we're going to increase our fees. We were making, $1 million last year. We were going to make 1.5 this year. But the bottom line and your cost is a lot easier to change. So that's one of the biggest things. Us switching to a digital workflow allowed us to cut appointments. Our implant impressions used to be 90 minutes. Now they're 45. Because all I do is the surgeons are placing an N code and we take a scan. For me, I only book 30 minutes. I take a shade, I take a scan of the upper, I take a scan of the lower, I take a scan of the bite, and I'm done. And so you look at it and you're like, okay, so that chair time is now cut in half to get paid pretty much the same as we were
2 years ago, 4 years ago. And it's the same with denture. Dentures became a lot more profitable, especially for partials. I take a scan of the upper, take a scan of the lower, I take a scan of the bite, done. You come back next appointment, I deliver. So it's like that was framework try-in, then wax try-in, then final delivery, but then I'm making all these adjustments because they overextend. And so that's one of the things that also I see as a positive is with this digital, we can actually become more efficient and provide better service faster. And it's not like I'm cutting corners on any of these things. And then, yes, the reimbursement is relatively the same, but my overhead has gone down drastically.
Absolutely. And like you said, ultimately, it's better for the patient most of the time. Technology gets things a lot more accurate with how good scanners are, and it's less visits. So they're getting what they want quicker. And I think it's great. I mean, we could talk all day about how easy technology can make dentistry. It's wonderful.
And I think only the patient wins. Everyone wins, but I think really this is such a benefit for the patients that it's so fun to be a part of it. And for me, it's really cool that I have two guys in their late 60s that we were literally throwing out the old impression material this last week because we're like, it's all expired now because we haven't used it. That's how far we've come, is that they're like, yeah, we're totally over it. Like, I don't feel like touching that stuff. And I'm like, good. I hated it in dental school. And patients appreciate it. They're like, this is great. Like, this is cool. And for us, then we do, it's called a scan review. So our lab will log into our computer and they will look at our scans before we submit anything that we want. So I did a crown today on 29 and it was a really deep margin. And scan review, they log in, they go, the margins here, 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 went 360 and they're like, looks good. And what's great for me is not only do I know that this crown looks good, the patient sitting in the chair next to me goes, that was really cool. Like, that was really cool. I can't believe you did that. And I was like, I know. Isn't that really cool? And so that's what gets me excited is like, my patients are excited. Like, this is fun. They're like, this is so cool. This thing is like insane, this computer. And I'm like, I know. We got two of them too. That's even crazier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's awesome. They love seeing the scans. And we didn't even really touch on how you can use scans for new patients and diagnostics and things and showing them their bite when you're talking about ortho and things like that. So scanners open so many doors. One of my non-negotiables when I was looking for an office was like must have digital workflow because I'm just like, once you learn it, I would very much not like to go back to analog.
I don't think I can. I really don't think I can. But, for us, I also like it because it builds trust. I've had several patients come in the past couple months and they were told they need 6+ crowns, 5 crowns, 6 crowns. And it's the restorative cycle of death you learn in school. They start with a small amalgam. The small amalgam becomes a big amalgam. And the big amalgam is going to go one of two ways. We're going to break it down to the gum line and we're going to need an implant. Or we're going to bake it, break, and we're going to need a crown on it. And so there's an office bias. And anytime that there's an old amalgam, that tooth needs to be replaced with a full coverage crown. Are they wrong? Yes. But I can see the logic of it of being like, listen, my car is 120,000 miles. Is it closer to needing a new car than being the new car it was? Yes. But what I don't want to do is replace my engine because I don't know if my transmission's going to go. So I don't want to do a crown on this tooth because it's old and has micro cracks in it. That's my favorite thing, micro cracks. And then the tooth next to it breaks, tooth across from it breaks because it also has a massive amalgam. So when I have a scanner and I show the patient, I go, look at this. See that little crack right there? That's the micro crack they're talking about. Does it exist? Yeah. Could this filling last us 20 more years? Yes. Could it last us 2 more days? Also, yes. I'm hoping it's closer to 20 years than 2 days. And if it breaks, you give me a call. How's that sound? You've automatically got the patient's trust because I just told them you don't need $15,000 worth of work. And they know that I would get paid if I did all that work. I'm like, no, like you need a filling. That's it. And I think having the ability to show them we have digital x-rays and we have this scanner, you're not beating the scanner. I don't think you need it. Here's why I don't think you need it. Let's look at it together. And they're like, oh. And it's all about building that trust. You won't lose those patients. They will go to the grave with you as their dentist. And that's really rewarding just by showing someone something. Being in an office where I know I'm going to be here for a while, we also have a little bit of a different outlook. I'm definitely more of that old school conservative dentist. I'm like, we'll do the big filling. Why not? And I'm someone that's a big proponent of big fillings. If it's a big filling and it fails, it needs a crown. But the other alternative was it needs a crown anyway. So why not see if we can last the big fillings and last us 4 or 5 more years? Crowns don't last for forever. So if I can hold off on doing a crown for another 3 years and it breaks, you're like, didn't we talk about it? Like, yeah, dude, I can't believe it lasted that long. Is that crazy? And you're like, that is crazy. I did not think that would last that long. So it's nice kind of having that mentality where I know a lot of the other offices are like, no, you have a certain number of crowns you need to do. And you're, again, if you have student loans, you're like, what pays more? 33% of a MOD or 33% of a full coverage crown?
Yeah, it creates an interesting pull for people when it comes to their philosophies of treatment. So it's cool that you've been getting the chance to get those second opinion consultations and give people your take on things.
And while you're in dental school, there's faculty that want to talk with you. They want to teach you. Like, they love this. And some of them retired. They love dentistry so much that they went back to teach more people about dentistry. And that's why a lot of them are old. So they're like, I don't want to practice anymore, but like, I'd love to teach it. Email these people, text these people, Snapchat these people. Like, I think a 1,300-day streak with one of my teachers on Snapchat. Like, I Snapchat Nick every single day. And it's great because sometimes I see someone like, yo, check this out. I have one patient, she was in the clinical trials of implants. I have never seen, it's got these two tiny little screws in the mandibular molar, and then it's a bridge attached to a natural tooth. It is 40 years old and has the healthiest bone I have ever seen on any implant. I'm like, everything about this is wrong, but this somehow works. And I'm like, yo, take a look at this. And I was like, is it cool if I share this with some of my friends? She's like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. And every time I see her, she's like, you love this thing. I'm like, it is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, it must be fun for her knowing like I have something unique in my mouth.
Yeah. And I said to her, I just wish that the surgeon placing this knew that in 40 years, it would be the healthiest, strongest thing out there. It's crazy how this thing works. But like, again, you have mentors built into dental school. Whether you're the most liked person or the most hated person in the class, there's going to be a faculty for you. Ask those people. Get second opinions. I did a full smile reconstruction on my best friend, and I asked two different teachers, what do you think? I'm like, do we take it to the first premolars? Like, I don't want to cut those teeth down. And we went back and forth, and you challenge each other. And that's the best part, is like, you know enough to be able to make your own decisions. And now you can justify those decisions with someone that's a peer, not an educator. And then you can learn from them, being like, well, why would you do it this way? Well, I think we want to keep the buccal corridor wide. We want to see back there. And it's like, oh, okay. I'm like, I don't want to do crowns on a 26-year-old. And she goes, okay, fine. Yeah, good call. Don't do them. So, it's nice. You can go back and forth. And then when you make these decisions, you're like, oh, that's a really good informed decision. I didn't just make this, on a whim.
Yeah, I agree. It's cool once you graduate to have that golden ticket in your mind that like, hey, like I'm a fellow dentist now. With anybody I meet, I can converse with them. I have the street cred and we're peers, like you said.
Yeah. And then it's also weird being a new grad where you have to be humble and know that in the nicest way, like, you're not equal. Like, this person has 20 years of work experience. They know more than you do, but also, hey, we kind of are equals. My decision matters just as much as yours. So it's kind of finding that perfect balance of being humble, but also seeking that respect that you deserve. Getting that degree is not easy. And especially for the internationally trained dentist who did it twice, I'm like, that's really not easy. So it's definitely hard in that aspect. But yeah, it's definitely fun to be able to actually talk to people and be like, oh, so how does your office work? Like, learn from these other people. And it's also a great way, bringing back to our conversation before, of being like, so how does your office work? Why do you like it? What do you hate about your office? What would you change at your office if you had a magic wand? You write these things down and go, oh, that's a pretty good idea. Like, oh, we should schedule online. Like, I had no idea. And you just learn this by talking to more people and hearing what they have to say.
Absolutely. So we've covered a lot of really good stuff today. Before we get into wrapping up, is there a final closing message you want to leave people listening with today?
Dentistry is the most rewarding career I think you can possibly have. If you are going into it for the money, find another job. If you are going into it because you have the ability to be a healthcare provider, treat people that are sick, you are going into it to play arts and crafts, you're going into this to make people in a field that is very anxious and nervous feel comfortable, it's the perfect job for you. Now, the thing that I think is hilarious is people are like, oh, it's so hard every day people tell you they don't like you. Duh. That hasn't changed in decades. No one magically started hating the dentist, but you can be a dentist that people actually like. And that's not that hard. You take a few more minutes to hear why you're worried. You take a few more minutes to explain what you're doing. You take a few more minutes to just chill. And you'll be amazed how many more people are like, I was so anxious before coming in. It wasn't that big of a deal. And you're like, no, my life's easier the more comfortable you are. I don't want you moving on me. I don't want you squirming. Like, I want you watching HGTV for an hour going, oh, we're done? That was crazy. I didn't feel a thing. It's like, I know. I don't want you to. So that's really, it's so rewarding. If you want it, you can absolutely do it. You can absolutely be successful in it. And if you don't want it, don't be afraid to switch careers. Work for one of the company, work for an insurance company, work for one of the Colgates of the world. That's totally cool. But you have to be going into this for the right reasons. And if you do, it is so much fun.
Yeah, I love that you and I both love what we're doing every day. I feel like there's not enough of that positivity on the internet. So hopefully people got some good, honest truths of some quirks of working as a dentist, of course, but some encouragement that it's so worth it. And life is certainly a lot better out of school.
A few things are worse. I mean, dental school was just, I had a miserable time. But then when I looked at it, I was like, well, there were certain things that made it miserable that I changed in our office. I didn't think people should be waiting months to come in for an appointment. I just thought the way things were run was not how I would run things. And it was fortunate for me that I could then go, all right, what did I learn? Treat those bad things as learning opportunities. And that applies to anything you do in the field of like, I learned a lot from that one. Let's not do that again.
Definitely. So if people want to connect with you, follow you, stay in touch, what is the best way for them to do that?
Yeah. So follow me on TikTok, send me a DM on there. You can also just send an email to my little thing in my bio on TikTok. So I'm Will the Dentist, which I'm so glad to get that handle. But realistically, I've already had people, so they send me their admissions applications. And I'm like, listen, I am not a writer, but I'm more than happy to take a look. And I think I just want to encourage more people to feel comfortable to ask other dentists, ask me questions because I have so many questions. Just the whole process. Where should I go to school? What do I need to buy before dental school? And you're like, really not that crazy. You just have no idea and you don't know who to ask. But I also feel that way about some of my posts on TikTok where I'm like, I have 75,000 people that viewed my post on like what to do after you get your wisdom teeth out. And I'm like, why are you going to TikTok for your answers? But feel free, send me an email, send me a DM. I'm here to help people do it. I want to encourage anyone that wants to be a dentist to do it. It is great. It really is. And again, it's not always sunshine and rainbows. I'm not going to pretend like there's not certain days where I'm like, I'm not going to like choke someone out. But like, that's any job. Like, it's any family, any relationship. You're like, there's going to be amazing days, and you hope that most days are good. And there's going to be some days where you're like, wow, that filling was real bad. Like, that was just like, I gave it my all, and it just beat me. And it happens. And it's nice to also have someone that you can message and be like, yo, you ever done something and you were not proud of your work? And they're like, all the time. Like, yeah, it happens. Like, you do your best, and your best is just sometimes not ideal. That's okay. I'm sure you can relate where you're like, I spend so much time doing something and you're like, it looked like garbage.
Yeah, unfortunately, like you said, it happens to everybody. You do the very best you can.
Yeah. And that's like the other thing. And then you choose your schedule. You don't have to work 6 days a week to be successful, to pay off your loans. Also, there's other people out there that have similar circumstances with loans, similar circumstances with offices that they hate or places they feel like they can't leave. They feel trapped for one reason or another. And it's like, go online, seek these people. Don't be afraid to just send someone a message and being like, hey, you have another office. What do you guys do to grow? Probably when we hang up, like that's what I'm going to ask you. Like, hey, I want to grow even more. What are you doing? And what are the things you like? I'm turning the table to interview you. And the fun part about it is you can do that. So feel free. As I said, TikTok's the easiest thing for me now because it's very public, which is again weird because that's start of this year was not a thing at all. So it's nice to kind of, be able to be on there. But I'm excited to connect with more people.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you again for having me. It was so fun. Dentistry is great.